All right, this is going to be a video on how to make graphs using Google Sheets. You can do the same thing in Microsoft Excel or Pages. The buttons might be a little bit different, but the concepts are essentially the same, right? So this data table on the screen is one, if you remember, from the Corn Lab that we did. So again, a lot of times you can create the actual data table in Google Sheets. But before you actually start making the graph, you want to make sure that you have copied and pasted this data table into your lab report document, which might be on a Google Doc or some other type of document, right? So if you look at this data table, we have corn variety, we have the different levels of ECB. If you remember that experiment, then this person did 3 trials and they had their averages. As I've instructed you multiple times, right, when it comes to graphing, we are only going to graph averages. So for this data table, the first thing I'm going to do is remove all the columns that I don't need. So I'll right click, delete that column, right click, delete this column, and delete this column. All right, so now you'll see I have my corn varieties, my levels of ECB, and my averages. Now, again, remember when you're setting up your data table, it's going to be very, very important. And I'll show you in one of the other examples why setup is important. You always want to put your independent variable in the first column, right? And then your dependent variable in the second column. Now, we have a little caveat here because we tested no levels of ECB, low levels of ECB, and high levels of ECB. So that kind of serves as a second independent variable. So again, you put those things next to each other, but your dependent variable is going to be your last column because that's how the computer reads the setup. And again, it's just the correct way to set a data table up. Independent variable or x-axis first, dependent variable and y-axis in the second column, right? Now, again, based on things you've learned about graphing, obviously this should be a bar graph because I have qualitative data, so names, versus quantitative data, numbers, right? So I'm comparing different things. So this should look like a bar graph. Once I've had my setup correct, I am going to highlight everything that I want to graph. And then I go insert chart. And here we go. It has given me a graph, right? So, and exactly like I expected, a bar graph. I have over here the weight of the corn, right, the averages, and then I have the different types of corn at the different levels of infestation. You can see it wrote the names right there. Now, you know that in graphing we need titles and we need labels, right? So that's where over here on this side customization becomes important, and you want to play with this until you become more familiar with it, right? So in the setup part, again, I can change the type of columns, right? So I can go here, change the type of columns. If I wanted to, I can change the color probably of every, let's see if I can change the color of every bar or if it's going to change all of them. Nope, changes all of them. All right, so, and that goes back to customize. But in the setup, I can choose bar graphs. I can run my bars vertically, horizontally, right? But again, I just want my bars to look this way. So we're going to do that. I actually prefer the blue color. So I'm going to put that back. That would give me a custom color. Okay, cancel that. All right. Now, chart axis and titles, right? Chart title over here. So now I need a chart title. And this could be levels, or let's go amount of corn in different levels of infestation. Right, so it puts my title in there for me. And that's chart title. So now I want a title or a label for my horizontal axis and my vertical axis. So I can go vertical axis, and this vertical axis would be weight of corn. And notice it puts the label in there for me, right? And then my horizontal, even though it has all these different things, I still want to give it a title, and this would be types of corn, right? And if I can spell corn, let's see. All right, and then that's it. So now I have my graph created for me, and then so to put it back into my lab report, I'll come here, click copy chart, right? And once I copy, then I can paste it, or I can click these three dots and go download it as an image, right? And put it in there. So this is one example. This was a bar graph. I'll show you another example. So let's look at this data. So again, temperature, right? We did trials, and then we have averages. So again, I don't need the trial information. So I would highlight that and delete those rows. So now I just have temperature and averages, right? So I want you to pay close attention to why this might not work. So I'm going to highlight all of these. And then I'm going to go to, as soon as it reconnects me to the internet. All right, so again, pay close attention to why this will not work. So highlight the data that I need, go to insert like we did before, right? Chart. And interestingly enough, it says no data. Here's the reason why. Let me get rid of this. The computer, again, right, can only read certain things. So if you have letters and numbers where you want it to graph, it does not understand how to graph letters. So you should make sure that you only have numbers in here. So if I take off seconds in each of these, all right, come here, seconds, take that off. And let's say I put it here, so my average is in seconds. Right, and I highlight this, go for insert chart, and now it gives me a chart. Now, for some reason, it decided to give me a pie chart, but that's not what I want. We know that this should probably be a bar chart or bar graph, right? So I would go to setup, bar, and now it's giving me what I want. It has the type of water, the different temperatures on the bottom, and then it has the averages in time in seconds, right? And then it gave me a title. So this one's pretty much ready to go. It has everything that I need, and I can copy and paste that over. So again, just understand you have to be smarter than the computer and know what you want in your graph. I'm going to show you one more example. And again, just this example, it shows why setup is important. So notice, right, in this one we have average plant height, 2 different plants, group A and group B, and then over 5 days. Now this one we would want a double line graph. We've done some physical double line graphs where you had to draw multiple lines on one graph. And so in this example, you'll see how to do that using Google Sheets. But if my setup is incorrect, right? So notice the orientation on this one, the independent variable, which is really the time, is going across the top, right? And then I have the 2 groups. But then in this setup, the independent variable is in the first column where it should be, and the dependent variable is their second and third column, right? So if I were to highlight the first setup, highlight my data, insert chart, it gives me a bar graph. And when I go to change it to a line graph, it gives me this weird looking line graph with the different days in different colors, which is not what I need, right? And you can fix this from here, but it's really difficult to fix that one from there. So that's why I said pay attention to your setup. If you set it up correctly, independent variable in the first column, dependent variables in the second column. If I were to highlight it this way, insert chart, and it gave me exactly what I wanted, right? 2 lines, my time, which is my independent variable on the bottom, right? And so now I just need to go put some different axes. So I would change my title to plant growth over time, right? And then on the y-axis, what did I measure? The height of the plant. So here, vertical axis, HEIGH of plant in centimeters, right? And so now it has set up. I have a key, right? My intervals are well done. But what I don't like is, so notice here, we know in this corner, it should be 0, 0, right? My intervals are a little off. So for that, I would need to come to vertical axis, because that is my horizontal axis. And minimum value on the horizontal axis should be 0. So put that, hit enter, and now it moved it over, right? 0, 0. And that's actually a more accurate graph. All right. Any questions? Feel free to send me an email, and hopefully this works out for you.